All right, we're going to move into this presentation here, increasing your front desk phone call conversions to 90 plus percent, whether you're in network, out of network, hybrid, all those things. And then really the path to overcoming objections and having a thriving practice without having, a ton of new patients, right? Without having to spend more money on marketing, without having to go out and do more workshops, all of those things, how to overcome price shoppers, how to overcome folks who are asking about insurance, whether you're cash hybrid, whatever that might be. Again, the key is your front desk and oftentimes the weak link. So we'll move into a super brief intro about me, who I am, and kind of our story a little bit. I am the owner of a fully cash based physical therapy practice in Nashville, Tennessee. It's called Be Ready Performance Therapy. Feel free to look us up. But we've got full time treating providers as well as an admin. We do over $500,000 a year at the time of recording this without taking a single insurance. Never have. And I've basically completely removed myself from treatment outside of like 1-2 hours a week of just some folks that I've treated for a long time and still like to stay in the game. Out of that, we kind of accidentally created this admin business called Virtual Refresh, where we've helped over 30 practices at this point optimize their first phone call and either train their existing front desk or give them one of our fully trained US based remote receptionist. So, what we do is, again, we either will place you and recruit for you one of our US based admins who are already trained. These are folks who have a clinical background in some capacity, or I'll train your current team so that you can just improve the way that you guys are doing it. Because let's face it, you're a busy business owner, and or you don't have the skills and resources to know how to pull that off. So, big thing about my practice and kind of why we created this and why I'm super passionate about it is I was losing at a minimum $10,000 every single month on just the Facebook ads that we were running and we were generating. The problem that was happening is I had, of 10 leads that would pop up in a given week, I forget, I think we were probably spending like $100 a day or something crazy. We were converting less than 50% of those people that actually opted in to an actual an evaluation, right? Big problem. Then once they were coming in, so we already had a leaky bucket on the front end. Then once they were coming in, we were only converting well less than 50% of those people to actual plans of care. Now, if you looked at what we were doing with our organic traffic, workshops, people from our website, a little more warm traffic, we were converting at over 75% on those people with ease, right? And so I couldn't understand this disconnect, and I just kind of chalked it up to the fact that it was cold traffic, and like that was just going to be the problem. Our customer lifetime value, really across all of our clinic, was well below $800, despite the fact that our plans of care costed $1,500 plus. So, what did that tell me? It told me we were just not converting enough people to plans of care, and we tried a lot of different things, and finally we went back to our front desk. So we were generating 44 leads a month, but managing to only generate well less than $5,000 a month from our paid traffic. And like I said, I think we were spending, 2,500, $3,000 a month. And so like very low return on our ad spend. And it was a major issue. So what I did was I got rid of the front desk that we had, just didn't think she was equipped despite some of the trainings we were doing with her. And we increased our phone call conversion up to 91%, and our clinic closes now became 74%, right? It tripled our return on ad spend. So here we were well below 50%, now up to 91%. And we were 50%, and then we were at 74% of closing in the clinic. It had a tremendous effect on the growth of our practice. And now we tripled our return on our ad spend. And we just saw this rocket ship kind of start happening with our other providers. So why am I telling you this? Look, I've got a done for you training and or recruiting service so that we can help other cash practices sell more care plans, get people ready to go, and help you optimize, especially your first phone call and your front desk. And I've actually done what I'm attempting to tell you to do, and I'm still actively managing my own practice. And so I'm in the trenches. I understand this stuff. I know how this stuff goes. And plainly put, like this was built by a practice owner for other practice owners. I'm not some other like, you know, out there agency that just hires random people all over the country or even outside the country and just plug them into your business. And so, as far as I know, we're the only people that are doing this from a practice owner standpoint and actually been in the trenches, tested it on our own, and actually done it. And then now bringing it to you guys as well. And that's what separates us more than these other admin agencies. Okay, so enough about us. How to create a highly effective front desk team that grows your practice and not killing it, right? Like that's ultimately the big problem we don't want to have happen. And a lot of y'all's front desk is absolutely killing your practice. So, four big things I look at when I am looking through this stuff. Sales process, the talent that you have at the front desk, what's your onboarding process, and then what's your leadership and management like of somebody after they're actually in the position? And do you have the tools to actually effectively lead and manage these people or the time to do it? So, first big thing, sales process. Okay, that's the big needle mover here. Because if I don't have the right sales process for bringing people into our ecosystem, it doesn't matter. You can have the best possible talent in that position. A lot of it is just killed by the way that you guys are going about it. So this is the outcome of a good solid sales process looks like, hey, I got a consistent lead follow-up that results in 90+% of the people we talk to converting to an evaluation, actually showing up and actually completing a plan of care and follow-up processes for those that actually do not. So we got proven scripts to talk with cold and warm traffic and convert them. A lot of you guys don't even have a script that you're operating off of or that you've even given your front desk. You got documented processes to automate and manually follow up with leads that don't convert. So somebody doesn't convert, like oftentimes they'll pick up the phone and they're just like, "Yeah, I was hoping to know your price, or if you take my insurance." They say no, and you don't even have a name or phone number to call this person back, which is a huge problem. And we can automate some of that, which can really bode well to just reactivate some of these people down the pipeline. You got proven strategies to actually overcome the insurance and cost question early on in the call. Because people always want to do that. They're going to pick up the phone, they're immediately going to start asking about cost and insurance. And so many practices and med spas and other businesses that I'm talking to don't even have a process for that, and they just let people price shop them and they hang up the phone and they're completely content with that when they probably could have overcome that. I mean, everybody, that's the first question they ask us when they call our practice if they found us online or from Facebook or whatever. And we overcome those, right? I wouldn't even have a business. I wouldn't even have patients if we just let people do that to us. And then all these leads are tracked and we know where they are in the life cycle. Meaning, you know, they called, they scheduled an eval, they never showed up. We know where they fell. They showed up, they came for an eval, and that's it. Or they came, they did a plan of care with us or bought a package, whatever, and they didn't do any like ongoing services with us at that point. I know where they are in the life cycle. Now, here's an example of a sales process of a bad example. Folks that are losing tons of revenue because their sales process is messed up. One big hallmark of that is their front desk is doing 1,000 things. They're calling insurance companies, they're calling new leads, they're handling conversations with doctors, they're checking patients in, they're checking patients out. They're trying to reactivate old clients that you just gave them a list of. It's a hot mess. The other big thing is they're dropping the price or telling clients that you're out of network when they ask over text or within the first few minutes of a call, which so many folks are doing that. So please stop if you're watching this video. Facebook leads, you got inconsistent and slow follow up. You're not calling within 5 minutes. You have zero sales tracking whatsoever. You have no CRM or you're not using it effectively. You have no tracking of leads that are coming in, where they came in from, how many scheduled, how many are completing plans of care. You got a ton of cancels and no shows for new patients that you're scheduling. You've decreased the number of patients that are purchasing packages or actually completing a plan of care. This practice is going to need a ton of volume in order to grow, and they're going to get stuck to keep their providers full at that point. And that's exactly where we were. It was physically impossible for me to pay a full-time salary to our staff because their schedule was not staying full, simply for the fact of all of this stuff that was going on above. This is like my practice right here, right? So please don't do that. Now, some good examples. front desk is streamlined. You may even have a separate sales team. You may have an admin who their only job is to actually make sales calls for you, right? Or new incoming phone calls. They handle all that, especially your paid traffic. You got a separate team who owns authorizations, customer experience, all of that type of stuff, and they're not getting interrupted by somebody talking to a patient about what it's like to work with you and the cost. You got a phone call conversion that's 90 plus percent. You got a plan of care conversion, 70 plus percent for the team, 90 plus percent if they're the owner, and schedule utilization is stable and or increasing. That's exactly a hallmark sign of a solid practice with a solid sales process. So you're only as good as your weakest link, right? And so many of you guys have a terribly underperforming front desk and you are totally content with it because you've had a ton of turnover, you're burnt out, you're tired of trying to hire the right person, and you're just content with mediocrity and you'll kind of settle there, right? Which is a big problem. Now, you're only as good as your weakest link. Talent at the front desk is one of your big problems. A solid outcome for this, hey, you got a high performer that focuses on revenue generating task, not a thousand other fires. They focus on getting patients in the door and keeping them on the schedule. So we've got a proven process of how to find performing talent. I got a clear interview process on how to vet and weed out underperformers. And then finding talent, I know how to find talent that has a high social IQ, maybe some previous sales experience, or lives and is a part of and actively participates in any niche populations that you work in. Pelvic floor, CrossFit, if you treat a lot of barbell athletes, if they maybe if you're a functional med doc, maybe you've had a somebody who's had their own story and own healing process going through functional med, or maybe one of your past clients who's been a really rock solid, person and advocate for your business. So a bad example for talent acquisition, your admin quits and the practice needs a body super quickly. So you throw an Indeed ad up, you get like 50 people that apply, you get a couple phone interviews, a bunch of people no show you maybe on their in-person or their phone interview. You get 3 to 5 of those candidates in, you extend an offer or two, and the admin just really wasn't a good fit. They seemed pretty good when you were talking to them, you got them in, and now you're stuck with an underperformer. And you just quite frankly think it's their fault because they're not good at it. And you just don't want to go through the process again because you're busy. You're still treating a lot of patients and handling other fires in the office. And so that person's going to underperform for a while. One bad hire leads to another because ultimately they end up quitting, and now the practice owner, the office manager, gets burnt out due to turnover, and so you got turnover at the front desk. Now the office manager's burnt out. The office manager wants to leave, and now I've got this just rotten, toxic culture because one bad hire led to a bunch, and it just busted up the whole entire office, which is a huge problem. So a solid example of talent acquisition. Hey, we run an exhaustive multi-step interview process, personality test, videos, weeding through resumes, group interviews, one-on-ones, meeting the team, all that good stuff. And we hire out of abundance and not scarcity, not out of immediate need. You've got a whole list and a Rolodex of people that you can get through in order to actually find the best quality talent. And you're only going to hire the best candidate, not just to get somebody in the seat. And if you absolutely have to, you'll extend the interview process if you're not happy with your first batch of candidates, rather than you just saying, "Hey, this is what I got in front of me. This must be all that's out there," and you just hire somebody for sake of doing it. And we find somebody that maybe has some sales training or experience or even clinical experience, and we make the right hire from the get go, and that reduces their turnover and future turnover at that position. Now, from there, the most critical time when you are bringing somebody on is the onboarding process. And a solid outcome for that is I need a clear process for meeting and training your new front desk in the first 90 days. And I absolutely have to spend some time because that 90-day window is going to be the make or break is if they will perform well or they're going to underperform and you're stuck with somebody who's just not doing a great job. And so part of that is you got to have a documented playbook of how to get up to KPI within 30 days, right? Not this, hey, we're going to be subpar with phone calls for 30 days and then I'm going to have to take them back because I don't trust you. You've got video and live sales trainings, right? Or other trainings for your front desk. You've got some stuff that you're going to actually do with them face to face. Maybe you have some stuff that's already videoed, some SOPs that you've created. You've got a weekly meeting agenda, a weekly sales meeting agenda. So not only just helping them with other things, but also sales, which is going to be the big top priority for the front desk. I've got a process for auditing their phone calls and actually how to track them, not just, hey, we're going to throw you on the phones and hope for the best. And then 6 months from now, wonder why our schedule utilization sucks. Here's a bad example. We spend 1 week shadowing someone in the office, and then they kind of turn them loose, right? Hey, ask me questions as you need to. And they're not going to do that. They'll kind of ask some questions, but they don't know really what to ask. There's no structure, there's no continued meetings, the admin doesn't feel validated or connected to you and the team. And the admin does one of two things. They're going to struggle to get up to KPI, and that leaves you with a choice, right? It's they're going to underperform, and you have to settle for that, or they quit or you fire them, right? Like those are the two options and the consequences of really not having that solid onboarding process here, right? And that's a big, not fun place to be, right? All because you didn't spend a few extra minutes. And when I'm like doing our recruiting, this is one of the biggest things that people say to me. Hey, what would make you? I ask them, hey, what would make you want to stick around with a company for 4 or 5 years? And almost always they just say, hey, I just want to have clear communication and clear expectations. And I want to feel like I'm part of the team. And that's what they say all the time. It's not more money. It's not, um, you know, any other number of things that you can think of. Oftentimes it comes back to them just not feeling connected, which again comes back to that onboarding process that you guys don't have because you're too busy. Here's an example of a good example of the onboarding. Hey, I got a pre-scheduled weekly meeting that you block off before they even start, and it shows up weekly. You got it scheduled sales meetings to audit their phone calls. So either you do that after, or maybe you do that part of your weekly meetings as well, if the cadence makes sense. You've got video documented sales processes to overcome some of their money mindset issues. So many people have issues with asking about money, talking about money. It's an uncomfortable topic. And if I don't have documented ways to weed that out or vet that out, even in the interview process and especially in the onboarding process, you're going to have a hard time getting over that money mindset to convert more people on the phone. Then you build and tailor trainings based on the KPI and the challenges that the front desk faces. So if people aren't buying a plan of care, then great. Let's spend some time actually working on that. Why are people not buying plans of care? What are they saying on the phone and what are we not saying? And ultimately, the front desk feels supported and bought into the practice. And now, this is the type of practice that has a front desk that will last a very, very long time, not just 90 days, not just 6 months. It is somebody who's going to be there and they're going to stick around. Versus the other example, the bad example, that person's going to be out, or you're just going to be stuck with an underperformer, and then they're going to quit when it's convenient for them, not convenient for you. And that's going to be a huge problem. Like, those are the type of people who get super frustrated, and they're like, "Hey, busy season's coming. I think I'm gonna quit now just because I'm so sick of this place," right? And that just leaves you in a really, really bad place. Now, the final stage of this is leadership and management. Okay, this is the most critical time after I get out of the 90 days. How am I leading and managing this team, and how do they even self do these things, right? How do they self correct? How do they just become aware of problems or challenges that are going on? And how does this run kind of on semi autopilot, which is what it does in my practice? Like, I'm not having to constantly babysit my front desk. She knows to reach out to me when we're having issues, if lead flows down, or hey, I'm having issues converting people, can you listen to this call? And that's because we've created a culture and a management structure that she knows how to monitor and self-correct when these things are down. So we've got clearly documented KPIs for this position. I've got a documents of processes if the admin's out of KPI. So like opt into phone call, initial phone call conversion, patients not converting to plans of care, patient not converting to continuity. I've got processes that are documented on what to do if those metrics aren't being hit either by the admin or our PTs. Then we've got daily, weekly, and monthly reporting of metrics. So what should be submitted at the end of the day? What should be submitted at the end of the week? What are the metrics that are important? And what are we going to do if we get out of KPI for any of these things? And then the admin knows how to self-report when their performance is failing, and they know to reach out to you as the owner or the office manager on how to fix those problems, not you having to catch it and go downstream and catching it after the fact, which is going to cost you a lot of money. So here's a bad example. We hire and onboard an admin. We realize in 4 months that the schedule utilization is super low. And we notice that the front desk struggling to overcome insurance objections on the phone. We bring it up to the admin, and that's the one time we do it. And we kind of don't really have any ongoing conversations or training to fix it. And so we think the admin's lazy or just not good at their job. And so we either do one of two things: we continue to settle and leave the person in the position until they quit, right? And that's ultimately the final outcome. And that's going to leave you in a bind, all because you didn't actually spend some time leading and managing them. Now, a good example: practice owner notices on the daily report that the admin's call percentage dropped by 50%. Call conversion dropped by 50% from Monday to Thursday. So we talk with the admin. We realize she's struggling to overcome some insurance objections. We audit the phone call, provide some feedback, and then that call percentage improves back to 90% the next week. And crisis was averted, right? They got in a little bit of a slump. How did we get them out of the slump? And now we're moving in the right direction, which is absolutely huge, right? So, what are the next steps here, right? So, below this video, you'll find a link to schedule a call with us if you haven't already. What we'll do is we'll jump on a call and I can diagnose exactly, or somebody on our team can diagnose exactly where you have a bottleneck in your practice and then give you 2 to 3 actionable items on how to fix exactly that. And so, is it on any of these steps that we talked about, or is it something else, right? Maybe you're just super time poor in the practice and you don't know where to go. And then at that point, you can either, once we diagnose it for you, you can either jump in and work with us and we can help you solve that problem, and maybe the revolving door that you have at the front desk, or the tons of revenue that you're losing because they're price dropping and you have no idea how to train them or give them ongoing training, and just kind of provide some stability and really help you increase the amount of revenue you're bringing into the practice. Or you can say no thanks and you can leave with some insights into your practice. So regardless of the fact, it's a win-win. I'm not going to pressure you into doing anything you don't want to do, but at the end of the day, I will at least point out where the holes are. You'll have some actionable items, and then you can choose whether you want to work with us, or at the very worst, again, say no thanks and you can move on about your day. So, either way, I look forward to chatting with you soon. If you found this helpful, I would love it if you gave us a follow on some of our other social platforms. We post a ton of stuff on there. Instagram's probably the biggest, and you're probably catching this on YouTube, but yeah, catch us on Instagram, instagram.com/virtual refresh. Either way, I appreciate y'all's time and have a great one.